Okay, now you want to just tell me about the story of the Women's Comfort Station?
Yes, I will. And it's interesting because it was a women's project for women. And in about 1907, there was a group called the Women's Federation Clubs. And three of the ladies there, whose husbands were very prominent, decided that there needed to be a place in town so that the women and the children could take care of their needs while their husbands were off doing business and so forth in the town. And that could take a long time. At this point, they were still coming in buggies. And they went to city council and they asked for a piece of land that they could have. Well, that took a while, but the city finally gave them a piece of land south of City Hall, and then they had to reach the funding, and they did that by bake sales and bazaars and jitney suppers. And at one point, I thought it was interesting, they even did a little, a penny or a nickel contribution from each child in the county in the school system. And so they came up with several $100s there. But it was very ingenious, and they reached a certain point of money, and then the city came forth and finished it. Now, it was built in the bungalow craftsman style, and the point was that it would be comfortable, it would be warm, it would be safe, and within the first 2 years, they say that there were 20,000 people visited that. It was a need that took care of a lot of the traveling people. And also, this was done before the women could have the vote, which was amazing. The ladies were Mrs. Reynolds, her husband was a doctor, Rebecca Wright, whose husband was an attorney, and Mrs. Jack Doherty, whose husband absolutely owned almost all of the Old Town area now and where Carborundum is. And these three ladies were the spearheading for this. The groundbreaking was done on Women's Day during the week of the centennial in June of 1916. And they did that with a ladies' band. They had a Logan Ladies Band. Mr. Gump was the florist, and he had flowers there, and the mayor came, and they all took their shovels and so forth. And it was opened exactly 1 year later. So in 1917, it was open to much fanfare as well. When you went in, there were very comfortable sofas, rocking chairs, restrooms in a higher level, and they always had a matron that made sure everything was there and on the up and up and everything, and it was a great place to go. And we do have some relics from the comfort station. When they did demolish it, they gave us the cornerstone, and I'm saying we, meaning the Historical Society. And also, when you went in, you signed your name and address. And we have about 40 of those books, the three-ring notebooks, and that goes from 1917 until about the 40s. And we have them. So if you ever want to inquire as to whether your mother went there, you can tell us a year. But so we did receive a few things. Helen Mowry and our friend Mary Ann Peters, who was involved with the National Registry of Historic Places, began to do research in the late 1970s. And it was so unusual because architecture, number one, and the women's movement. And so because of those social reasons, it was accepted, and it is on the National Registry. However, because it was demolished, we have nothing to show. Very unfortunate, but the city administration at that time wanted to build a new police station. They had a plan in the works to move it to the Diamond Canal area, and Hocking Tech was going to be involved. And they had it almost in place that they were going to actually move that building. And the administration gave them a deadline, and they didn't reach it, and so it was demolished. And really very sad, very sad. Now the name, sometimes people will say, what kind of comfort were they talking about? Well, actually comfortable. But it did just exactly what they wanted it to. It gave a place for respite for the moms and the children. Women could go there and breastfeed, for instance, and which is still a topic of conversation. But meat, I've had several people say that they would take their lunches there if they worked downtown in the courthouse or so forth. They would just go in and sit on the couch and rest, read, or whatever for an hour, and then go back to work. It was just a very nice restroom is what it was. It was a restroom, but the ladies gave it another different name, the Ladies' Comfort Station, which I think is very cool. Over the years, of course, there has been controversy. At one point in the 40s, the Girl Scouts wanted to take it over. They wanted to take it over for their meetings and so forth. And there was a big brouhaha in the council. And it was finally decided that it should be kept as its original purpose, which was for the restrooms. They had to, well, this is like 20 years. It's been operating 20 years. And at that point, they had to start refurbishing. And the city had taken over the running of it at about 1925. And so it was their responsibility to have the matron there, do the plumbing and so forth, and it was getting to be more expensive. As the years went on, vandalism came into
how big
being.
was it?
Not
Like how
too
many
large.
rooms?
I have photographs of it. It was like a nice, comfortable living room. And then at the back, there were a few stairs, and you went up to, I think maybe 2 or 3 restrooms were there. At one point, they closed it in 1970, and the city started putting equipment and machinery and things in there for storage. The Hocking Hills Gallery, artists in the area wanted to open it and have it for tourists, a gallery of their arts and things like that would be on sale. It was a wonderful idea, but here again they couldn't get the volunteers to keep it open at prime time, and so it did close again. So it was put on the National Registry in 1980, which is no small accomplishment, and it was demolished the same year.
So in 1917 it opened,
Yes.
and of our very first welcome center.
Yes, exactly. And that was the argument that we had. It could have been used for, yes, a welcome center. Even if it had been put down by the canal, down by the Diamond, the same thing. It would have been used in open and brochures and all that. This was before we had the roadside rests. Those roadside rests weren't always there. And it was just ideal, but it wasn't seen that way by the city, unfortunately. So many of us have memories of that. I can remember going in high school. But if you see these books, these ladies would sign their name, who their children were, their address, and the date. And one of the matrons was Anna Signs. And she was there for years and years, and many people still remember her. So it was a very, very nice site, and was organized very well when it was strong and going, and it just went out of favor. Things changed, people were driving, There were open restrooms in restaurants and things then, but in the beginning, it was a lifesaver for the ladies.
Thank you. That's exactly what we needed. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
You're
such a
very
great
welcome.
story. It is
You're
such a great story.
You're
It's
very
just
welcome.